Man, it's weird starting an episode here, or a recording session, entirely. But Falling Star Night was last time. And this is where Falling Star Nights leave us. Alright, anyways. Much more mellow atmosphere. Everything's so gray now. Of course, Mappo's always out here this time of day. Could you walk away so I can talk to you about whoever we just sent off? Actually, let's remind ourselves. Here's Takamaru. Cool. Now could you walk away from that board so I can talk to you about Takamaru? I actually don't know what he says about Takamaru. Well. So what else do we have on our plate right now? Not a lot of people around, of course. And in fact, just look at the map. Not a lot. Not a lot of people on this list either. At this point, there's a thing or to do that I think we can do with the devil, but otherwise, I don't know. I guess we'll see what other kinds of things we might be able to do randomly with people. At this point, we're mostly just stuck on whatever miscellaneous events can come up with different characters, which will probably still become fewer and fewer as time goes on, since those tend to involve more than one character. And whatever other things you find to do around the island, like maybe going fishing every now and then again, and seeing if we can find other species, which are probably around at night. So I might start sticking around at night sometime soon. Fair enough. Well, I guess we can see if I can better understand whatever's going on with Devil now. I kind of accidentally just skipped through whatever he asked me to do last time, because I didn't realize he was actually talking about things for me to do, I don't think. Yeah, it's very bittersweet towards the end of this game. As things get all gray, the island's a lot more lifeless, both in the lack of people there and in, you know, like the greenery, and the music starts slowing down. You know, it's some kind of pleasant music. There's this, I don't know, kind of like dull acceptance of the almost loneliness on the island as people leave. I feel like this music kind of communicates. Pick up whatever stars we find on the way. Oh, did you do it? No, you haven't. You haven't done it yet. What is it you want me to do? Yeah. Stopu Echo. Like... Oh. Wait. Like somehow stopping, you get what I'm saying? Like, stopping, like messing with the power, sort of thing. As in, does he want me to just, like, turn off the windmill? I don't know slang for, like, sabotaging the power grid in Japanese, if that's a thing. Well, we can see if that's what he's talking about, just out of curiosity. I don't recall this one. I do remember a couple of things he asked you to do. Not this one specifically. Like, so, that's kind of the thing with Devil after you've already gone through his whole story. Of course, there's a thing with parents, but other than that, he'll just suggest different kinds of... What are you doing over here? A pranks for you to pull. Oh. I have a feeling that's not what he said in the original. What is... Do they have, like, extraterritoriality here? Or something somehow? Anyways. Jeez. Look at those flowers. It also feels appropriate just not to say much, just to kind of take in the very relaxed atmosphere at this point. But let's see if I understand what Devil is talking about here if I just shut off the windmill. Now in the position on. Now in the position off. References. Hey, these flowers are okay. You guys look very nice. So you're not knowing comments on the island starting to look different. What is he doing up here? I don't know if I remember Mappa walking up here. What's he actually do? Alright, now he's just panicking. What's he do here otherwise? If it is on. Does he walk up here normally, or is it only if the windmill's off or something? Yeah, then he just leaves. Yeah, so I guess he comes up here if the windmill's off. That's interesting. But to the point where he just teleports away once it's back on, it's kind of strange. Like, where'd he go? Up by the, yeah. Where the soldiers were. Odd. Anyways, I didn't look if Devil was over here, but is he? Yes, he is. Did you do it? Ah, awesome. So yeah, he's saying that I didn't in fact do the thing. I just don't want to... It would take me a long time to decipher what the heck these things are saying. I try to sometimes at least kind of communicate the general, like, notion of it. It's something about me getting it, I guess. Getting it in the sense of, like, getting, like, being a bad dude. Something approval. Something approving. Anyways, take this thing. Since when did... Well, he's saying, like, since when were you such a bad dude or something like that? I guess he's commenting on how you give off the impression of being such a nice guy, like nice and kind to the whole world, sort of thing. But anyways, let's play again sometime. Oh, speaking of play again, we need to see more of the picture show. But with us sending off people so frequently, it's just not happening. think I'll fish now for the rest of the day. Admittedly, not much happening today, but like we're kind of an accelerator rate where like every other episode, more or less, I'm sending people away. So we have breaks some episodes and sending people away other episodes. So there's still one thing we don't have from the sea, evidently. Well, let's see if I can catch that. And maybe run around a little bit at night if I don't catch this thing. Or if I catch it quickly enough that we still have time left this episode. Mostly trying to find any other animals, just out of curiosity. I'm slightly bummed that this song doesn't change. Because just from the screen here and from the music, you won't have the slightest idea that the whole island's changed since we came here. I have you already. Shagzilla. Sounds like the sort of thing people come up with back when people were joking about Shaggy being the second most powerful being in existence. I'll leave it to you to recall who the first most powerful is, of course. There's that greenness off to the top left in the water. It's interesting. The water's not all one color. I already found you. I had to find you from Mappo, I think. I need to think about playing Endless Ocean 2 at some point. I've been talking a lot lately about not being sure what games to play anymore. But I do actually keep a list of things to play. I have a lot more things on my maybe than my definitely list at this point. In fact, I don't think I have anything on my definitely list at this point. Although, I do expect to get to Endless Ocean 2 at some point. It's just one of those games that takes so long. It's just, I need a lot of time between really long games like that. Name. But, it's funny, I've just played a multitude of games, specifically on the Wii too, that involve just like identifying lots of ocean life and whatnot. Like, I know what a coelacanth is, although coelacanths seem to show up a lot in Japanese games in general. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if they just have a weird place in Japanese pop culture or what. I think they're mostly just known for being a really old species. I don't think they're a part of Japanese mythology or anything like that. I don't know. Dude, come on. But if you're watching my Drawn to Life Next Chapter playthrough, you'll also notice that I recently got reminded of Da Blob, which was another Wii game out, and why everything's on the Wii lately. That was a funny one where I never owned that game, I actually rented it. And I got a good chunk of the way through the game, but I don't think I finished it. It's like a little blue tang. I know what a tang is specifically because I already found one of those though. Because of games like the ones I was just mentioning. I guess I know what a lot of fish are called because of games like Endless Ocean and Go Vacation, which happens to have an entire segment of the game that's based on just Endless Ocean. I don't think of myself as like unusually interested in sea life or anything, but here we are. Just things that happen because of the media you happen to consume. It's funny. But anyways, on to Blob. I didn't finish that game. It was a long time ago. I just rented it back when renting games like from a physical place was a thing. Just rent the actual game disc in a box. I also remember not long after, I think I read in a magazine a review of the game after I had tried it myself. I remembered someone saying the levels were a bit long for their taste. I remember agreeing with that because I think the levels were like half an hour or longer for me oftentimes. And it bugged me because there were cases where like I just had to stop, like I had to go. I had to leave. I just had to like turn the game off or maybe even just leave it on for a long time because I was in the middle of a super long level. And you can't save partway through the levels that I recall. But, yeah, I remember reading that in a magazine because that was a thing that people did back then. They read magazines and people wrote things about games in magazines and so on. It was a very different world almost 20 years ago. Back when these games first came out. I forget how old these things are these days. I feel like we're on the cusp of like the Wii and so on being considered retro consoles. I don't think most people are willing to call them that yet, but the generation before them definitely at this point. I think part of what makes something retro though is just what your relationship with it is. Like, you look at the older things that we consider retro and there's a way they kind of become like less something people actively play these days and more like a part of history in a certain way. And I think part of that is the games being treated like historical artifacts in the systems themselves, where people start coming out and talking about what it was like working on the thing, and other people reverse engineer the things, and people start worrying about preserving it for historical purposes and so on. I think that's really starting to happen with the, what was it, 6th generation we called it? I can never remember the numbers. But the one that had the Xbox and the PS2 and the GameCube. I feel like I'm kind of a part of that, because a big part of that is the reverse engineering and so on that happens. And here I am, also participating in reverse engineering Jet Set Radio Future. Stuff that's being lightly documented on my Code Not Magic channel that runs parallel to this one. And some work I'm doing recently on Blinks 2 as well. It's just eventually people that grow up with stuff, they get old enough to actually go back to it with a new perspective and new abilities that they can bring back to it, and they start picking it apart in ways that they weren't able to before. I think that's cool. But I have some worries about whether that's going to even be possible as time goes on, because I feel like one person with the right skills and enough dedication could figure out a whole lot, if not practically the entirety of games that were on, say, the NES. I mean, those games, especially with how they're just written in assembly anyways, and that's something that more or less directly turns into the machine code that the games are compiled into, or better said, assembled into. Yeah, you lose comments and everything, but you can disassemble the game's code and you have what's more or less the exact same thing that was written back then, when it was first programmed, just, you know, lacking any names of variables and comments and stuff like that. But it's all stuff that, like, one or a few people were able to keep fit in their heads, and it's still in that format if you are able to disassemble it. Compare that to things that came later, like, say, Mario 64, written in C, compiled language. But the most decompilable language that we have. It's just the language that put the most work into knowing how to decompile. Managed to figure out what the actual toolchain is that was used for Mario 64 and so on, and we luck out in some cases with stuff being built with debug info, and we figure out how to pick apart a whole bunch of the game and recover lots of its code, and we even, in some very few cases, manage to decompile the whole darn thing. But incredibly few cases, and those are all cases that took a lot of work from a lot of people. The amount of work it takes is greatly increased, in part because the actual code that's in the game now is stuff that's much more dissimilar from the way the programmers wrote the code than it was back in, than what you actually, well, than how things were on earlier systems like the NES. And now we're on systems like this one, or like on the Xbox, where stuff is written in, say, C++, you get even further from the system. Now you have all these templates and things that get totally erased at compile time, and bigger teams of people working on stuff. But it's still possible at least to figure out lots of these things. I mean, I'm figuring a lot of it out. Then you move on to even newer stuff, like things that have online-only components, like lots of the code never even goes on your system to begin with. Like, you don't have the whole game on a disk. You connect to a server, and that's how all these things are. And I don't intend to start a conversation on, like, online-only games or whatever. That's a whole other topic. But I don't think we're going to find anything else here. But what does worry me about that when it comes to things like preservation is, well, you don't even have the whole game on hand anymore to recover, let alone the fact that it's so much bigger and it's so much more difficult for a person to try to reverse engineer things and so on, or even a lot of people working together. But on top of all of that, lots of stuff you don't have access to the data itself. There's no practical reason for what I'm doing right now, I just don't like doing it. It's kind of the tone of this episode. Is Mappa back up here? I ought to turn this guy's windmill back on. Where's Mappa? I'll just turn the windmill on before I leave. yes, thoughts of mine on how things do change over time, certainly. It's funny that I think of this as being later than the stuff that I usually play. This is like the newest generation of stuff I usually play on this channel, with some high-profile exceptions like Mad Rat Dad. But nevertheless, it slips into being older and older in the eyes of most of us today. It's a funny thing, aging. Anyways, we'll head on up to the trailer. Next episode, I guess we'll decide then who to send off. I think I'll roughly keep to the pace of sending someone off every other episode, except I want to... You know what I want to do first, though, higher priority. Also, I don't even have that many stars right now. I can get more, of course, if I actually really wanted to. But I really want to see the other chapters of that little paper show, whatever we call it. So I'm gonna prioritize that higher first, I think. I don't want to end up missing anything on that by accidentally just finishing everything up else in the game and forgetting all about it. Feels almost weird coming through this part of town now, because like at one point there was stuff around here. There was a reason for my trailer to be here, but now this entire half of the island is uninhabited. It's just me alone. I think I'm gonna move my car tomorrow to where all the other people are. This is kind of weird over here. I have no reason to be here. It's way out of the way. Anyways, I'll see everyone next time. Bye, y'all.